And Mitchell, camera's on you. Tell us about your topic.
Okay, so this came up actually at a company I worked at. Offhand, we were all just sitting around like on computers as information workers do. And someone brought up the question. It said, if you had to fight some number of fifth graders, moral like reservations aside, you can imagine like they're all zombies or whatever, but you have to fight some amount of fifth graders. How many fifth graders do you think you could successfully, like, I don't know, like submission, but basically you fend off or immobilize? We'll say immobilize. Now, I'm going to put two scenarios.
Let's say disable, because you could
Yeah.
also not immobilize them, but dissuade them from
Yeah,
fighting.
dissuade. I mean, scare them, whatever. Like, you have to basically just immobilize or stop them from like fighting you. Like, now you have two styles because there's kind of two scenarios. Either like they're coming at you one at a time or all together. So we'll discuss both those separately. One of them is the magic appearance of like 100 fifth graders or however many you want around you, and then you have to deal with the scenario. The other one harkens back to the pro wrestling, like the Royal Rumble, where you're standing in a ring and just every maybe minute interval, a new fifth grader enters. At what point do you get overwhelmed? So
There's an endurance test.
yeah, you can choose either way, but like just that's the scenario is fifth graders, you, how many do you think you could take?
No weapons involved.
No weapons. Yeah.
Neither on your part or the fifth graders.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
And that's important.
you can definitely pick someone up. I'm going to assume that you could pick up a fifth grader. Again, maybe they're zombies. We'll just assume they're zombies. Like, don't think about like the moral reservations aside. But like, you could maybe pick up and swing a fifth grader at another one. But no, like, there's no knives, no baseball bats, no anything.
It's great. Wow. Well, what size? I mean, like,
What's an average fifth grader?
Beefy fifth graders? Like, are these
just an
fifth
average?
graders that have played rugby? Like, are these fifth graders that are just
Does it
Just
include
girls?
average? Yeah, boys and girls.
I think we're going to go with the average mix. Like, there's going to be a bell curve. But I would also ask you, how many fifth graders do you know that play rugby?
Well,
And go to the weight room before playing rugby, I think is another
That's-
important
yeah,
question.
that's-
Like, I mean, I played football on the playground. We all played
I've
sports.
seen some
maybe.
big fifth graders, not the small guys. I mean, I have to use technique over power. But
oh man, a couple dozen, I'm sure, right?
It's like a couple dozen, yeah.
a couple dozen
Maybe.
at once.
Oh, maybe not at once.
So you're thinking the Royal Rumble style, or are you thinking
Yeah.
like the magical 24 appear and you're dealing with like 24 fifth graders
Is
all
space-
running at you like
Is the space confined?
yeah, we'll say like either way you're in kind of like
Clear room.
what's maybe like a little bigger than like a your standard UFC octagon.
Okay.
But it has
That's
an
important.
entrance so that a fifth grader can get in, because obviously a fifth grader is not going to jump over like
Yeah.
hopefully in their right mind. Like a fifth grader is not going to jump over the side of an octagon and then come after
And
you.
8 feet of rope.
But 24.
24 is a big number.
I don't know. Like, I mean, the average fifth graders. Maybe we need to Google this, but they're probably like 4'5".
Yes. And most likely 100 pounds.
No, not even. Like, I have
Yeah.
my kid is a third grader, and I would bet that she probably doesn't weigh over 50 or 60 pounds. So we're talking someone who maybe is pushing 70, 75 pounds.
Yeah,
Is that what the average would be?
No, I think that's fair.
So 75
I
pounds.
think my daughter, she's a sixth grader, but she is on the small side, right?
Yeah.
And she is, I think, 60 pounds. Or
Uh-huh.
something.
And
You
mind you,
gotta
these aren't
figure-
kung fu masters. They
You
don't know
gotta
how to
figure
throw
at
that.
least one of them is, right?
river.
One of them's got to be a good.
One of them's taking some taekwondo.
Yeah, one of them's got to be a scrapper. One of them's got to run the streets.
That's the one you got to be first.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the.
That's the one you don't want to be held down by like 5 other ones while that one does like a flying
Yeah,
kick.
Yeah.
exactly. That's the
Yeah.
one you take on first.
Uh-huh.
Because the question about space is when you fight multiple opponents, right? You have to try to line them up. So you know, they don't all come at you at the same time. So if the space is confined, it's not like I can run out the door and, you know, kind of put them on a file so I can take one by one. Then that's a complication. A ring kind of thing, an octagon, it's complicated because at some point you're going to be in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And if you're in the corner, well, you're backed up, and that's not good. So that makes it even harder to fight multiple opponents.
Well, historically, you know, if you think about the 300, or like, you know, these battles from back in the past, right? Like what Jack was just talking about. If you can get them in a narrow pass,
You can take them one by one.
you can take them one by one. And if, you know, like in the 300, you know, I mean, you know, the historical thing, not the movie, right? But the actual what happened, right? In those situations, if they're the older people, and like the standard fighters are the fifth graders, right? Like and if they can take them one on one, they can last a long time. Like I remember it was a berserker. This was when Norwegians were invading England or whatever back in the day, and there was some berserker that was holding a bridge, and they couldn't get over the bridge. Like he just kept fighting him, and I think they ended up stabbing the dude in the feet. They went under the bridge, and and they ended up stabbing him in the feet through the bridge, but because they couldn't take him, like he killed like a dozen or something. Like they were at an impasse against one dude.
Now I'm wondering, like, is the fifth grader gonna have like the ingenuity to come up underneath you and like underneath the, I don't know, the octagon or the ring, come at you? Because I think no matter what, one thing you would have in a scenario like a 300 or like a historical war thing is people are going to maybe be taller, shorter, but roughly they're all full-grown adults. At this point, with a fifth grader, you always have a better reach on all of them. So that's a slight advantage. But to your point, like, is it enough of an advantage that you'd put your back to a wall and then try and fight everybody in front of you with small people trying to bite at like the side of your leg? Maybe, I don't know.
So you have to incapacitate them.
Sure, I mean, just immobilize. I don't know if you can like wrestling pin or something.
It's elbow.
Yeah.
That's my weapon of choice.
Like do you have to like break them? Like that's the question. Like
I mean, I don't like. It's a loose scenario, obviously. Like, you can imagine if it's zombies, you got to remove the head. If it's just like methed out fifth graders, you're dealing with just like bath salts. You just got to stop them from running. It's like, but some way or form, you just got to like immobilize them.
so Roxy's a fifth grader. So
How many Roxys could you take?
How many
Roxy?
Roxy, she's a tough girl.
yeah, there's more than you think, right?
She's the karate master that I would be worried about.
That's right.
Like,
That's right. The scrapper with 3 brothers. 100. That's right. That's a funny scenario, Mitchell. That's definitely something.
Interesting consideration.
Yeah, interesting. Is it, or is it just weird? Like thinking about like, so why are you thinking about attacking children? No.
Yeah.
No, why are you thinking about being attacked by children? What they have against you? What did you do to them?
That's funny.
I mean, I wonder, like, zombie movies have become pretty popular recently. If you're an elementary school teacher and you wonder, like, if the zombie apocalypse happened while you were at work as an elementary school teacher, like...
So if we're talking about zombie apocalypse,
Yeah.
then I have, you know, other tools at my disposal, I would think.
Assuming, like,
It's
assume,
not
like,
mano a mano.
it
right?
hits as you're, like, standing in front of a class of, like, whatever fifth graders are.
Run to my car and run them all over with the car.
That's right.
That works, too.
Yeah, I'm running. I'm
That's what I said. My Suzuki Grand Vitara is my weapon of choice because it can run over things. It got serious damage to them.
This is when the
As it
minivan
does.
comes into vogue.
Have you guys,
Four-wheel drive minivan.
have you guys ever watched like Destruction Derby? Like any of those Destruction Derbies? Like a lot of the ones that win are the old 70s, like those big boat vehicles. And they drive backwards. They're always like this, looking rearview mirror, because they don't want to
Damage
engine,
the
yeah.
radiator.
damage the engine.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, yeah.
And those cars are full steel body too. Like I had a Lumina once, and in this case, I failed to yield, and so I pulled out where I thought there was a turn, like there was a lane going onto the highway, but there wasn't. And I guess it was right before a highway, and there was like a little, like I think it was a Nissan or something. but it was plastic, and my car was like a '90s, early '90s steel car, and their car was totaled, and mine had a dent in the driver's side door. Like those things are sturdy.
Yeah. That's true. That is true.
They also don't have airbags to deploy and total the car.
Yeah,
There's also that, right?
Yeah.
that's true.
Because I remember hitting a 90s Volvo right before we moved to the US. I was like, I'm going to sell my car in Brazil and then buy a car here. But then I crashed it into a Volvo, and insurance took me a while to fix it so I could finally sell it. And I lost power steering pump, radiator, like a bunch of stuff. It didn't have an airbag, that car, so it didn't deploy. There's none. The Volvo was like a very small dent on the plastic part of the rear bumper. And this guy's like, you just trashed my car. I'm like, dude, seriously? My car's undrivable.
Yeah.
Yours is a scratch or dent. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're tough cars.
Different cars are made different ways, man, for sure.
Made to run over fifth graders in case of zombie apocalypse. That's what they're for.
That's right. Oh, that's funny. We used to have a Saturn. So actually, my family owned a bunch of Saturns, and like Saturn was an interesting design, man. The way that they did the body panels and the interlocking, like. Did you guys ever see them? You ever see like go to a Saturn? So it was all plastic. All the outside of Saturn bodies, except for the hood of over the engine. All the externals of the car was all plastic, and then underneath of it, inside the door frame was like a roll cage. So like it was like a steel roll cage, but then the actual outside of the car was all plastics.
Really?
Yep, polymers. Yep.
That's
Saturn.
old Saturn.
What was that?
Was it for older Saturn?
All Saturns. That was Saturn. Saturn was a concept. So Saturn was like, I can't remember who.
Saturn's a GM brand.
It was, but it was a. Sorry, flip my shot on the head. Sorry, Roxy. I'm an abusive father. No, Saturn was GM brand, but it was like designed to be like independent company kind of like they. It was all women. That's the crazy part. It's all a bunch of women engineers. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They like created Saturn from whole cloth, and they.
Because I saw some GM cars from Brazil sold as Chevrolet in Brazil, and here they're all Saturn cars, and they were flagship cars from Chevrolet in Brazil, and here they were just like Saturn cars, but they were all steel body panels. They weren't. So I don't think they did it like all the time throughout the history of Saturn. I think they did to some models because those were same cars, like legitimately just the same cars.
Weird.
Interesting.
I don't know. Cool. All right. I think is that good?